Hey Donna,
Hi.
as I was saying to you before, I'm really enthusiastic about this interview because um, you you have we have a lot in common, I think, and
Mhm.
coming into your world was like, oh, she's so interesting. It's so
Mm,
inspiring. All the
mm,
things that she has mixed, and
mm,
I'm really inspired to do this interview. Can you start
mm.
by just giving us a little bit of context about who you are, where are you coming from, and just the basics? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor and inspiration. So I'm Dana Fonteneau. I started out as a young concert cellist. My family was all musicians, and they worked with a pedagogue named Dr. Sunichi Suzuki, who created a philosophy called Nurtured by Love. And the
Hmm.
philosophy of that teaching from Japan was that the teacher's job is to help any individual develop their unique talent and potential. And it really was coming against this philosophy of talent is for the chosen lucky few, and that you either have it or you don't. And so, even from the age of three, which is when or two or three is when I started a musical instrument, I was already inundated with this philosophy of you can make the world a better place. There are things like music that can unite humanity despite our differences. There's a commonality with sound and energy and color and tone that can unite us. And so, long story short, I became a professional concert cellist and I taught at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music and pursued chamber music. And I was living in California, and I had started chiropractic with a chiropractor in California, and he was working with a man named Dr. Donald Epstein, and that work really forced me to get connected with myself. And the more I went inward, the more I started to have to acknowledge that I had a lot of incongruencies. And there was a part of me that truly wanted to do something that would impact humanity. So I knew I had a calling, and yet I had all this breakdown, right? I had injury, I got sick all the time, I was struggling, my life was like powering through. It was mind over matter. It was just like it
Yeah.
was survival mode at the highest level of achievement. It was just like it was so incongruent. And then I would have these extreme inspiring experiences on stage, and then my life was kind of breaking down, and I was forced to kind of stop and really start to go, okay, this there's something off here. There's something not right, because it should feel inspiring, should feel
Hmm.
inspiring. I should feel alive. I should feel vital. I should have, why is this so hard? Hard not in a meaningful way, but hard as in breakdown constantly, right? So I ended up becoming a somatic psychotherapist. I'm see if I can keep this nice and short. Because I was fascinated with the mind body connection. And I knew from my own experience, I knew from people around me that the power of the mind is directly expressed through the body. Just there's no question about that. Absolutely a psychological component to everything we feel, the amount of vitality, our posture, our range of motion. And so I really wanted to study that. And there just happened to be a program at a school. There was only three in the United States, and it just happened to be two blocks from the San Francisco Conservatory. So I knew the universe was at play, because it was just if there was no way I could not do it. So I went to my husband and I said, I want to go to school for psychology. And it was this terrifying thing, because at that point I was only 29, and my whole life had been music, and I was destined to become this, world famous musician, which was a bit of a fantasy. And so I went back to school. I was working full time as a psychotherapist, as a cellist. I was teaching, I was performing, I was going to school, and then I started seeing clients, and it was totally insane. And then from there, I started becoming a somatic practitioner. And then I built a series of different businesses. So one of them is called The Wholehearted Musician. And it started as creating resources to empower musicians because I had this belief, and I still do, that musicians can be empowered, they can be healthy, they can have great relationships, they can earn beautiful money, and they can actually make impact. But we've got to un much of the programming that we've been taught from a young age. And then out of that came, I discovered um, John Demartini. And I had a profound experience at his breakthrough
Mhm.
experience. And that started to challenge a lot of what I'd learned in psychology school.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect complement to everything I'd been learning from Donny Epstein. So then I became, it took me about 7 years, I became a master certified Demartini method facilitator and a values facilitator. And all of that became Dana Fonteneau Consulting. And I started working with executives and working with organizations and bringing in this hybrid of mind body awareness, peak performance, mindset, health and wellness, but really specifically understanding the role of emotion and how our mindset and emotion really impacts everything externally and internally. And then ultimately, that's leading into the Fontenot Leadership Institute, which is where I want to be able to teach other facilitators, and I want to be able to teach programs that kind of really encompass all professions for those who are really want to do the deep dive in
Mhm.
internal self-awareness and empowerment. So that's the long story. So
Yeah.
it's a constant hybrid of me synthesizing what I'm learning and teaching it to others, all in pursuit of fulfilling human potential and really having permission to know ourselves, love ourselves as we are, and be ourselves and do something extraordinary, if that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my long story. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
When at what age did you have when you um, understand that you wanted to impact humanity? Because you said that one day you feel that. At what age was you?
Mm. I feel like I was born with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's an interesting dilemma, right? Because it's like on one level, it was this, I call it the Superman complex. Like, I'm so important. I'm supposed to change the
Hmm.
world. It was kind of this weight of response, like dis, it was a little bit of a distortion. I'm supposed to make the
Yeah.
world a better place, and it showed up like when I was performing, even as a very young cellist, like my first performance, I think I was 4. I started on the violin, then I switched to cello, and I was talented. So there was this kind of expectation that when I performed, if people cried or if they were moved very deeply, I knew I was successful. So there was
Hmm.
always this kind of pressure that it was supposed to be extraordinary, which is not the same
Hmm.
thing as an inspired calling. So the inspired calling doesn't have that kind of distortion of importance or significance. It's just like almost like a seeking, and it's just a knowing, and there's more grace to it. But then
Hmm.
the significance and the importance of I'm supposed to be phenomenal. I'm supposed to change the world. I mean, that's a bit delusional.
Yeah.
So that was my conflict as a cellist, was this dichotomy of, am I good enough? Will I ever be good enough? And then I'm supposed to make the world a better place. And sometimes I do it and it's amazing. And sometimes I don't and I fail. And it was this very bipolar distortion of inspiration. So that
Yeah,
that's kind of been my learning is the distinction between those two.
I think a lot of performers and high achiever um, live in this delusion. How
Yeah.
have
Hmm.
you resolved that? Or I don't know if you
Hmm.
have resolved that, but
Hmm.
how have you dealt with that?
Hmm. Well, I think for me, the trap is always the kind of lie that if I achieve X, then I can feel Y. You know what I mean? Like, so if I earn $1 million, then I can
Mhm,
finally relax. You know, that's not true. That's a delusion. If I if I if I am trying to create something from feeling lack within, it's never going to it's never going to change. So for me, the learning, especially as I've gotten older, has been to back it up and to start to, like, as we've talked about, um, allowing boredom or
mhm,
allowing myself to feel fulfilled doing something so simple and so mundane, so normal, that nobody could say that's extraordinary. And really the inner work of looking at all these distorted expectations of myself of if I'm trying to create something from a sense of lack, right? Then how can I help somebody achieve something I haven't achieved myself? And no,
mhm,
and as far as I know, most people aren't fulfilled because they did something extraordinary. That's kind of more a byproduct of their demons, you know, their hustle. They don't feel enough. They don't they have a delusion. Oh, if I 1 million is not enough, now it's got to be 5 million. Now it's got to be 20 million. Now it's got to be 200 million. Oh, that's not enough because this void isn't getting fulfilled, right? It's like, oh, I've helped 5 people. Well, that's not enough because look at so and so. So and so
mhm.
is hitting millions of followers. Oh, I got to go do that. And it's all in the delusion of inspiration coming from a place of lack. So my hardest work has been to do the inner work of learning to love and accept myself as an imperfect, flawed, messy person, just a human being who's worthy of love, not because I earned it, not because I had to achieve it, not because I did something phenomenal, but because I was born. I mean, I think that's more courageous and difficult than any of those other achievements. It's so much easier to just go out and like
Yeah,
try to do something great than it is to like sit with the self that doesn't feel worthy of love and learn how to love her or love him. You know, that's hard work. So that's been my I chip away at that every day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of high achiever wants to know how, give me the tools, give me the framework, give me the point one, point two, point three.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Mm-hmm.
say to them, you need to love yourself, you need to accept every part of yourself, they will be
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, but I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone like this?
Well, I mean, I think this the simplest thing is don't try to do it alone. You know,
Yeah.
find a mentor, find a coach, find a therapist, find a healer who's walking their talk.
Mhm.
You know, somebody who's exemplifying that they have done that, because it's easier to learn by example or to
Yeah.
feel what it feels like in someone's presence than if you don't. I mean, it's like it's that's the thing I think with what we've been talking about this whole, you know, all these mentors, all these tools, you know, I think high achievers, we fall into the trap of thinking, if I just get the solution, if I just get the thing, if I just do the achievement, if I just fix this, then everything will be better. And that's the problem right there. There is no better. It's there is no like something's wrong here and it's going to be better if I'm here. It's really the question it's all here. right? And the external world is a mirror and a exemplification of the inner world. And if we're not okay here, then that's always a half of the story, right? It's like that looks shiny on the outside and like horrific on the inside.
Hmm.
So learning to love yourself is like, it sounds so, it sounds so buzzwordy, right? It's like everybody
Yeah.
says that, but what does it really mean? Well, it's what I have found is it's the radical courage to be able to be with your experience without the mind going, well, it shouldn't be this, or you should do this. Oh, use this tool. Oh, go collapse this. Oh, this is a judgment. Oh, this, like the mind will just try everything it can to stop you from having your experience. That is the purpose of the mind. And the purpose of the mind, if it's not fueled with something inspiring, it's going to go back to the past. It's going to try to put this in the context of what's already happened, and it's going to do whatever it can to keep you safe and help you survive. It's not going to help you love yourself. So the
Yeah.
mind and thinking and analyzing and putting concepts and labels and understanding something is not the same as being able to be with. To be with as a state of non-thinking, non-verbiage, non-words, and to not change it, right? It has a tone, it has a vibration, it has a sensation. It's a, it's all nonverbal, which is usually very young in our development. It's like before the prefrontal cortex has come fully online. And so when we're coming into these places with ourselves that don't feel loved, they're very, very young, which means that the adult
Hmm.
successful
Yeah.
overachiever cannot understand what that 3-year-old or 5-year-old consciousness is trying to express. And that 5-year-old is not going to talk in the language of achievement. It's going to talk in terms of emotion,
Hmm.
right? So there's a lot there. But I think for somebody who actually would like to go on this path, it's an inner path. It's the path of self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's the path of self-acceptance. It's the path of self-awareness, right? And just being able to be without bolting the minute it's really uncomfortable and trying to go achieve to avoid that feeling. That's the trap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would love to ask you a question about that because I love what you have said. And I love how you have integrate a lot of different perspective and method and mentor and all of that. And
Hmm.
you've just said that it's in this moment you have a tendency to analyze, rationalize, trying to collapse. And
Hmm.
how do you integrate what you have just said with
Hmm.
applying the Demartini method, for example?
Yep. Yep. So yeah, so when we say the word collapse, we're referring
Yeah.
to the DeMartini method. Um, so I think every tool has its place. And so I think just a little backstory. So I mentioned that I've studied with Donny Epstein pretty consistently with a little bit of a gap for over 25 years. And I've studied with John Demartini. I've done pretty much almost every one of his programs, and I became master certified, and that's been over 13 years. And I think sometimes when we get very inspired by something and we have just a profound transformation, we can start to kind of, it becomes the end all be all. It's the tool for 1,000 uses. It can be used for absolutely everything, and that's true if you are in the state that is required to optimize that tool. And so so it's really easy to start to make like I tend to call myself a living laboratory. So it's like it's not uncommon that I'll go through something and literally within hours my clients will present it and I will be working with them because I just I just went through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Happens every day. And so, and I have a philosophy. I want to walk my talk. I don't want to ever work from someone from the mind where I'm
Hmm.
thinking it's going to work. I want to be able to have the certainty of I've been there. I went through that. I've been through that torture. I've faced my demons in that way, like on that day. And I can tell you with certainty, it's worth walking through that fire because you can get to the other side, not from a theory, right? But from felt experience. So anyway, so these tools that anytime you use a tool to try to get rid of something, it limits the tool. So whether it doesn't matter what who your mentor is or how phenomenal it is, if you are trying to get rid of it, that it's still the issue, that's the issue right there. It's just like no tool will ever solve it in a sustainable way because you can't be with what it is. And if there's a mindset that says, if I just get rid of this pain, if I just get rid of this relationship, if I just get rid of this debt, if I just get rid of this injury, life will be better, then you're missing the wisdom of there's wisdom in that pain. And the point of the pain is to get you to get present with the wisdom that's trying to get your attention. So you can use the Demartini method all day and it will be amazing. And it will be, and it can help you if you are in the state that is willing and dedicated to doing the work to get those results. Will the tool work? Of course, the tool will work if you are ready to use the tool. But the tool in and of itself can't ever solve the issue that creates the problem in the first place if you are trying to get rid of something. Does that make sense? So it doesn't matter what the tool
Yeah.
is. I've learned this. It's like, oh, I'm like, oh, this tool is going to get rid of it. Oh, this tool is going to get rid of it. It's like, no, the
Uh-huh.
actual
Yeah.
issue is I got to get here and be with this first, and so so I
Mm.
think that's more important than anything else is as long as we think, oh, I'm going to keep working on myself because then I'll be better, then I'll be wealthier, then I'll be have a better relationship, I'll have more influence, I'll have more impact. Well, if that's coming from a place of I'm not enough and let me get rid of this, let me just
Yeah.
keep transforming so that I get rid of these parts that I think aren't acceptable, it's game over.
Yeah, I love it. Love this
Mm-hmm.
distinction. And
Mm-hmm.
if I understand correctly, for example, if I um, if I'm judging myself for an action I've just done, um,
Mm-hmm.
the bypassing would be to immediately find the benefits of
Mm-hmm.
what I've just done. And what you're
Mm-hmm.
suggesting is to start to be with the shame,
Mm.
with is that correct?
So, right. Right. So I think that's one thing that can be a drawback or it's not the way John teaches in my
Yeah.
perception, but it can be easy to bypass emotion and just get right into the mind and and he'll say every column of the method will bring a tear. And that's how you know for certain that you've done the work. And I know that to be true. When I have gotten so present with the feeling, the sensation in my body, I get really present in the moment, the content, the context. I get super precise about what my mind is judging and why it's judging and how it's judging. And it's the more present I get, just writing down what the charge is can bring a tear of inspiration because there's such purity of presence. I'm being with it. I'm aware of it.
Mm.
This is now Donny Epstein. I'm aware of it. I'm acknowledging this is what it is and I'm accepting it as it is. And this is the truth of my experience. From that place, then you can do any tool and something will be because you're no longer trying to get rid of the experience of it before you try to transform it. If you try to bypass experiencing it first and just get right into transforming it, it's always incomplete in my perception.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And after being really present with the
Hmm.
moment and using the 3A, accept, acknowledge, and do you need to collapse it, or is being present enough? What's your experience?
I've had both. I've
Okay.
had both because so if we're talking about a lot of this language is right from
Yeah.
both of these teachers, but if let's say for example, I find myself in a state of resentment. I'm
Mm.
angry, I'm
Yeah.
judging, it's really easy to just try to fix it, right? Which is
Yeah.
another way of saying, I just want to get rid of this. Most people will do anything they possibly can to avoid the pain of the experience. So it's like, so there's so many layers. So some of it's like, okay, well, let me just get present with myself. Let me just sit down, take a breath, and just get here, right? Then it could be, well, what state am I in? I'm in an energy poor state. This is Donny Epstein's teaching. Oh, okay. So there's just not enough available energy. So if I
Yeah.
try to go to the mind to start to generate energy by analyzing, thinking, labeling, judging, I'm going to generate more energy. But all I'm doing is trying to get out of an energy poor state. So part of it is just to start there, just to start to acknowledge I don't have enough of energy. I'm generating energy by drama, trauma, judgment, criticism. I'm trying to hustle. I'm trying to push myself when I'm tired. There's shit I don't want to fit. Pardon me. There's stuff I don't want to feel. There's like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. It's like, I call it the princess and the pea. It's this childhood story where anyway, I don't know if you know this is American reference, but basically like there's this story and this the bit of a digression, but there's this princess and she can't sleep. And so she hires that her father, the king, hires expert after expert after expert, and they're changing her mattresses, they're changing her this, and finally, there's one random person they think is no use. He realized that she's sleeping on like 15 mattresses, and on the bottom mattress there's this little pea, and it's distorting the balance of the mattresses, which is what caused her discomfort, which is what kept her from sleeping. That's the essence of what I remember about this story from my childhood. And that's kind of what I do. That's kind of my work with people is like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you all can, you're geniuses, you're masterful. You can get those first 10 mattresses, but it's usually like the 30th or the
Mm.
40th where there's this P, right? That is the real source of the charge or the discomfort or the distortion or the lack of enoughness or whatever the hell. So that's, I should warn you, I swear. I swear all the time, especially when I get going. But so so for me personally, sometimes it's okay, I'm just going to be really practical with myself. How much time do I have?
Mm.
What's the content and context of where I'm at? If I have 5 minutes before a big presentation or a huge, board meeting, or I'm going to go and I'm going to consult for so and so, and I've got 5 minutes, I'm not going to do the Demartini method. I might do one column. I'm going to pick the tool that's the most efficient and effective to assist me in finding more resource so that I might bookmark it. I'm not going to dive in
Yeah.
there now, but that is the one thing. I'm kind of answering your question this way, but that is the one beautiful thing, one of many things from Donny Epstein that I carry with me all the time. And he'll start with, don't go to the place that's broken. Like you're not actually broken, but don't start by trying to dig into the place where you have no energy, no resource, no safety, no presence. Like you go to where you have the most available energy and you let yourself remember that's a possibility. So that could be getting outside, that could be praying, that could be jumping up and down on the trampoline, that could be drinking more water, that could be hugging someone, that could be getting in nature, that could be putting on a song or a piece of music that really inspires you. And you suddenly
Mm.
remember this too is a possibility. And now I have two realities.
Mm.
I've got this one and I've got this one. So let me have this one help me be more resourceful to remind this
Mm.
one who doesn't feel resourceful that there is available resource. And that's just energy. That's just a decision. So sometimes we don't have all day to sit here and do the inner work. And so like you
Yeah.
build the tools, you work on the tools, and it's really about, I mean, but the AAA, as you that to become aware, to accept and acknowledge, is a life changer, because so often we're just fighting our reality, we're fighting our feelings, we're denying what we don't, we're trying to justify, we're trying to explain, we're trying to prove, we're trying to talk ourselves out of it, we're
Yeah.
trying to understand it, which is the worst. Understanding will get you nowhere.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that. In the workshop
Hmm.
I've done with you, you remind me
Hmm.
something that it's sometimes difficult for me to to remind me, but the concept, the idea of energy poor, and
Hmm.
that in an energy poor you can't change the situation.
Hmm.
Um, can you tell us more about the idea of energy rich, energy neutral,
Hmm.
and energy poor? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So again, this is from Donny Epstein. I didn't make this up. This is his work. And if you want to read more about it, you can get there. He's got a book called The Seeker's Code that is extremely beneficial. Um, this has also been a big tool for me, because it starts with the concept of, which I know we've all heard, right? You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. So his is it's a bit, I'm going to try to simplify it. But so this concept of available energy starts with energy being defined as a unit of change. So that could be through sound, that could be through light, right? But it's like, so when we talk about available energy, it's literally like how much resource is available for change. And it's the distinction between life and death. Like literally, death is like an absence of energy. There is no
Mhm.
available energy, or there's not enough available energy to heal, to repair, to rest, to restore, right? It's like there's like entropy is when there's a breakdown, not enough available energy. So what I love about his work, and what I've kind of grown in my own awareness, is how that applies to psychology, how that applies to mindset. So if we don't have enough available energy, so he uses the term energy poor. It literally means it's on a deficit, like it's below zero, right? It's like your bank account is starting to go in the negative, it's in the red, your relationship starts to break down, or your health and wellness you start to have chronic injury and illness, or in your business, maybe it's not really even about how much you're earning. It's like, is your team cohesive? Is your
Mhm.
team optimized? Are you starting to fight? You're starting to have, inefficiencies, starting to drop the ball, starting to have breakdown in communication. So this concept of energy poor starts with, there's not enough available energy, and the purpose of it is to get to AAA. That's it. It's like something hasn't been felt, something hasn't gotten acknowledged, something doesn't hasn't gotten heard. There's something we don't want to see.
Mhm.
There's something we're afraid to face. There's something we're afraid to remember. There's something going on where we are fighting going there.
Mm.
So in that state of breakdown, people normally want to get to hustle. Let me just fix this. Let me just solve
Yeah.
this. Let me just collapse this. Let me do another program. Let me go solve this, right? But there's not enough available energy. And when you're working with people, and what I've seen with teams or with clients, is that when people are in an energy poor state and they don't allow themselves to be there, you start feeling it everywhere, and they're going to start fighting you as a way to generate energy. So being
Mm.
critical with the mind is a way to try to, because it's more resourceful than going into helpless, hopeless, or despair. So if we don't want to go into helpless, hopeless despair and feel like every entrepreneur, nobody wants to feel like a failure. Nobody wants to feel like they're helpless. Nobody wants to feel like they're unempowered. That's like death to the entrepreneur, right? No, like nobody wants to feel like they can't get it done, right? We even cover it up with like, yeah, let's have the growth mindset. Let's learn from failure. This is just an experiment. We're gonna course correct, but that requires so much available energy to be able to
Mm.
have that mindset. So energy poor is breakdown for a purpose. It's purposeful. It is a teacher, it's a messenger, it's a wake-up call, it's like the body and the mind is doing everything it possibly can to get you back to yourself. And most people will do anything they can to avoid being there. And you see all kinds of challenge that emerges from that. Um, so that's the gift. The gift of energy poor is to learn, like what we've been talking about, to get back to the self and
Mm.
to really start to acknowledge that we have a one-sided reality. Fear,
Mm.
anxiety, despair is the assumption that the experience is only going to be negative, that it couldn't possibly be a learning or a teaching or a gift or an insight or an awareness or an opportunity for more self-love. Like the reason we're there is because we're stuck in a one-sided reality. There's more pain than pleasure. So this is how these two teachings are interacting, right? So energy neutral is where most people want to live, but that's also where no change is possible. Energy neutral is the comfort zone. Energy neutral is, I just heard this quote recently. It's like energy neutral is the level of existence you're willing to tolerate.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? So maybe your finances are comfortable. Maybe your relationship is like no one's rocking the boat, right? Maybe your finances are like nice and controlled and steady and and like reliable and certain. There's no volatility there. With your health and wellness, you got your routine, you do your daily thing, and you're feeling good, and it's all comfortable. It's your comfort zone, but then no change is possible. And what happens there is that people will fight to maintain their comfort zone. And everybody says they want energy rich, but energy rich is terrifying. Just say it. I'll just say it right there. I'll just say it right there because energy rich and what there's even super rich. And what does that mean? It means that you have such a powerful abundance of energy. And in my experience, that usually comes from soul or inspiration, that sense of purpose, of oneness, that sense of something bigger, of belonging. It's just for a minute having a taste of the mystery, right? The what connects us all, like just tapping into that divine, profound, magnificent energy. It's like so addictive and it's terrifying because once you feel it, you got to be accountable to it. And once you got to be accountable to it, it means you're big. And if you're big, you're a target. And the rest of the world, who's energy neutral or energy poor, is going to go after you to try to get your energy because you are what's called there's an expression, the tall poppy. Don't stand out. Don't be too big. That's too big. I can't handle that. That makes me
Mm.
feel insignificant. That makes me feel like a failure. That makes me feel like I'm inferior. I don't like that feeling. So I'm going to tear you down rather than get present with my own energy poor state. So people say they want that state, and it's terrifying because once you tap into soul, you got to be accountable, which really fucks with the status quo. It messes
Yeah.
up the cultural field. It messes up family dynamics. It's a big disruption for people and their status quo. So,
Yeah.
I know all of us entrepreneurs, we want that state. We want to go after it. It's really inspiring. We're on purpose. We're on mission. We're making a difference. But, got to be ready for the downsides too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the three states, and that's just a tiny bit about it.
Yeah, and you've said something that helped me a lot in the workshop I've done with you, which was
Hmm.
that energy rich is not sustainable.
Right.
Is that correct?
I haven't found a way to make it. I mean, it's like I'll have moments. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the myth, right? That's the myth. We talked about that a little bit, like,
Yeah.
these teachings, right? It's like if we're not careful, we can mishear what's being taught. right? And we can fall into a delusion that you find your telos, you find your purpose, you link your values to your this is Demartini now, right? Like
Yeah.
you found your telos, you found your values, you've done all the linking, you filled your day with your highest priority action steps. Well, guess what? Like you can hit a new level of energy neutral with that. And then you can even, if you're not careful, you can start to go energy poor because it's just become routine, it's become status quo, and
Hmm.
you've lost presence with who you've become, right? So then we call that pain point the new up level. Like, I've hit this new
Yeah.
pain point. Now I want to get to the next level. Or, or Donnie will teach us, and you're going to experience this, how and what it feels like to truly tap into that fullness of who you really are and what that is. But to be that in the world, I mean, we you got to remember we have different selves. And this is kind of a long answer here, but we have the part of us, what you might call the animal nature, right? That is hardwired to belong. And to belong, we think of that as social, we think of that as our people, our tribe, whatever, but it's really can be, if we're not careful, very primal. And that primal part is like, I have to belong so that I'm not an outcast, which could imply that I could be attacked and I could die. This is like the herd mentality. So we have to constantly be balancing these different parts of ourselves, the part that is in survival, that's often unconscious, and that often can, with our mindset or our perceptions or our values or whatever state, I mean, all these different tools are like, if we're not careful, we're interpreting things unconsciously as a threat to survival. And if we're expecting ourselves to be super energy rich and on purpose and inspired and on telos and life is magnificent, we got a real internal conflict that starts to
Mm.
create all kinds of challenge. So these things are experiences. I think of them as crayons, right? You've got a box of crayons. What color are you going to choose today? What color are you using right now that you didn't realize is already in your hand that started your day? It's really that coming back to self-awareness that says, this is where I'm at. Okay, now I know where I'm at. Do I want to choose this? Is that okay for today? Or do I need
Mm.
to choose, would I like to choose something different, as opposed to I should be inspired. I should be on purpose. I should be efficient, effective. I should go knock it out of the park. I
Yeah.
should be making $1 million today. Blah, blah, blah. That should will kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, I don't think it's sustainable in terms of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it is accessible. And when you have self mastery, and I think maybe that's the real question, in any of these tools, they're an opportunity for self mastery, which is an ongoing learning that until the day we die, right? Because we're constantly evolving. But self mastery implies that we have options, that we have choices, that we can be with whatever state we're in, and whatever state we're in, we can be with it, which means that we have tools to function, to operate, to be aware, to make conscious decisions with integrity of how we're going to be with where we are. And if we want to change it, we know how to, as opposed to, I can't be with this. I should be feeling this. I was feeling that before.
Hmm.
Why can't I do that?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be doing that. Look at so and so. They're doing that. So and so said, "Oh, this must mean blah 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 blah." And then we're just back into, the suffering of not being able to be with our experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your definition of self-mastery?
These are great questions. Um, Let me think for a second. I mean, this is how I would say it, is it comes from the Delphic Oracle, right? To know thyself, to be thyself. Well, I think it's really the opposite. To love thyself is to know thyself, meaning that you know all your demons, all your flaws, all your imperfections, and you love them,
Yeah.
right? And to love them gives you permission to be all of who you are. So for me, that's self-mastery, where I can catch myself in any moment and kind of rein myself back in to the best of my ability in whatever state I'm in, and be able to just, hey, this is what it is. This is where I'm at. And it's okay. And if I want to be here, there's something to learn here. If I don't want to be here, I'm going to acknowledge I don't want to fucking be here with this right now. And I'm not going to do this now. That's still an empowered choice as opposed to fighting it and trying to do something different. So for me, that's self mastery. And it's being able to be honest, like radical self honesty in all areas of life. So it's just like
Yeah, I love
it's
it.
a constant dance between editing the masks we put on, the shoulds
Yeah.
of who we think we should be, trying to please other people, trying to impress other
Mhm.
people, not to have people judge us, not to have people think, I mean, just all that shit. But for me, it's like if I look in the mirror and I can't be okay with what I see or feel, it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of me
Mhm.
because that's still going to run the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about knowing yourself, I think also about values, and
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would love to know what have you, in your perspective, what have you found that a lot of people in the Demartini world seems to not get about values, or maybe how your um, what are you understanding now about values that you
Hmm.
wasn't understanding maybe 10 years ago?
Hmm.
Because I feel
Yeah.
in this concept there is 100 levels of understanding.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. So just in case anybody doesn't know what
yeah.
we're talking about the value determination process by Dr. Demartini, and it comes from axiology, the study of human behavior, and then teleology, which is um, the study of fulfilling purpose, right? So the idea is your highest value is your purpose, your mission, your why. Like Simon Sinek will talk about your why, right? Or Sir Ken Robbins also wrote a book. I don't have it on the top of my head, but there's a lot of different phenomenal teachers who will talk about purpose. Um, so what I love what I love about the values determination process, and that was really profound for me. And I did it at a time where I was very self-righteous and I was like, I already know myself.
Mhm.
I already know what inspires me. I don't need to do this. And it was really revealing because it will start, with John's brilliance is that is a very simple exercise that almost no one can do well. And the reason
Mhm.
is because we are masterful at lying to ourselves, at
Mhm.
deceiving ourselves, at dissociating, at disconnecting, at choosing not to see the evidence that's right in front of us. And we do that because we've learned in infinite ways who we need to be, how we need to be, what we
Mhm.
need to tune into, and what we need to block out in order to belong, to achieve, and be successful, and to be loved by the people we want to impress. Right. So to, that exercise is a very profound practice of realizing how much we don't know ourselves, really. I mean, you sit down and you answer these 13 determinants, these 13 questions, and they're really actually quite simple questions, but when I teach it to my clients or I teach workshops, the first thing I'll say is, look, this is not going to be really accurate the first time you do it. And what I actually want you to understand is what is the question asking? Because the question itself is going to help you become more self aware. And then when you go out in your world, you go out through your life and you start to pay attention to, like, oh my God, I was in that restaurant and it was so loud and so noisy. But when that guy across the room
Mm.
started talking about personal development and human behavior and self-actualization, the room got really quiet and my ears stretched all the way to the
Mhm.
wall. And I couldn't hear a thing you were saying because all I was tuning into that. Ding, that's one of the determinants, right? Oh, okay. Now I start to understand what these questions are asking. They are factual, demonstratable, behavior based, which means like there's an actual muscular movement of the body involved in pursuing this objective. So the hardest part about doing the values is that people lie to themselves, and it really shows you where you subordinate. It really shows you the shoulds. It really shows what you've imposed on yourself. Like, people, the act of someone sitting down and asking, what does my life demonstrate, that just that question, they're like, what does that even mean? What do you mean? Right? And what
Mm.
it demonstrates, I value honesty, or I value peace, or I value success, or I value money. Like, show me what life demonstrates that. What do you mean? You know, so doing the values
Mm.
determination process is so much more. It's actually really not hard to do, but it's so hard to do. So
Yeah.
there's that. And then the second thing that I learned, which really complemented, I'm very grateful that I got to study with Donny first and then John, because when I started with Donny like 25 years ago, I was so in my head all the time. I was like not in my body at all. Everything was mind over matter. Everything was just like powering through. There was no freaking way I was going to get in here. So if I had gone to John, I think I could have been a victim of just thinking all the time.
Yeah.
But that it's not what he teaches, but it can be interpreted that way. It's like it's
Mhm.
very mental, right? But it's in actuality, his work is a practice of presence. But most people don't understand that. They think it's that just thinking, 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 and this because it's these high quality questions that you ask. So so just coming back to the question, for me, the values
Mm.
really just confirmed some things that I was already knowing, but it's just like it's never what a person says ever. I don't even listen anymore. I mean, I'll hear the words. I'll hear the words and I'll take note and I'll be respectful, but I'm like, that's and I watch their body. I look at what they demonstrate. I look at how
Mm.
they use their time. I look at how they spend their money, and I'm like, and I look at how much of an incongruence it is between what they say and how they do it. Right? So the thing that's tricky about the values is that it's really self-reflective answers. It's not even self-reflective, it's factual evidence of what your life demonstrates, and really unpacking what that means to you and what it represents to you. And for me, um being able, like, the first time, just as an example, the first yeah, I'm not gonna be embarrassed because I have to walk my talk, right? But the first 5 or 6 times I did the values determination process, because you have 3 answers for 13 questions, and you literally tally them up, and you look at what the synonyms are, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very mathematical. So much of his work is mathematical. You're balancing equations. Money wasn't even on there. It didn't even show up in any answer, nowhere even close. And then I was having to face the absolute complete distortion of me saying I wanted financial independence and looking at my values and going, it's not even on here. I can't even I at that point I'd never read a book on investing. I'd never read a book on financing. I probably read some new agey book on how to manifest wealth or some bullshit, but I had never ever ever taken the time to just get in with the numbers and study how it works and study what to do with it and how to grow it and how to value it. I mean, so this is, I don't know, you stop me anytime here, but the other thing that's really important is to understand about values. If you ever do the values determination process, the fastest way to do it is just go on Dr. Demartini's website. There's a free questionnaire there. You can do this on your own. But values change over time, but not the top one. And so all the other values are tools in which you fulfill that highest value. And there's a distinction between what you value and the form you fulfill it in. So all of these tools are so, it's what's really important to remember about any tool you choose to pursue in self-mastery is that they are living entities. It is a living, momentary assessment. It's never solid. So the worst thing you could possibly do is take a questionnaire like that, or do some self-assessment, or you go and you work with Donny, or you work with someone else, and they say, "Oh, you're this, you're that. This is what gets you here. This is what really optimize." And then you make it solid, and it never changes, and you never test it, and you never assess it, and you don't check in with yourself in 3 months and 5 months and a year, and you don't check in and go, is this still living truth for me? Have I adapted this? Have I evolved this? Is my life still demonstrating this is true, or am I stuck in a concept of who I was a moment ago, 5 years ago? So we have to take accountability that no mentor is ever going to be able to know ourselves more than we know ourselves. And if we don't stay current and evolve, who, like, all those tools are to help us help ourselves. So that's why these two mentors, I think, have had such sustainability for me, is because I see limitless possibility of me using those tools and continue to working with myself. And if I ever get stuck or I hit a ceiling, then of course I want to go to a program or something, because I'm so ready to up level and ready for that assistance. But if I can't do it with myself in between, then all I'm doing is paying someone and subordinating and delegating my own personal growth to somebody else who can never know me as well as I know myself. So, long answers. The sound has stopped all of a sudden.
Let's try like this.
There we go. That worked. Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. What have you found contradictory in the work of John and Donny?
I think if I dig really deep, I don't see any incongruencies. I actually see beautiful, complementary, parallel pathways to the same
Okay.
destination. But I have the privilege of, I know them. I'm close to them. I can have personal conversations with them. So like I've been around long enough to have really been in inner circles of teaching. I think if you're on the periphery and you don't question or really listen deeply, both of those teachings can be misunderstood, and the miss and it can, and I think that's with anything really, is like, it's sales, right? The sales is, here's a problem, you don't like it, it's broken. Here's a solution that's going to help you tap into your soul's purpose or the truth of who you are. And if you do this, it's better for humanity, it's better for everybody, everything will be better. But that's not actually what they teach. They both teach that there's a spectrum, and we've got to hold both the, call it whatever you want, the black and the white, the broken down and the optimized, the hero and the villain, and
Yeah.
and that they'll, but that doesn't sell. So this is kind of a more general for pretty much everything. Like, nobody sells, hey, I'm going to help you love your demon. Like, they're like, hey, let's get you comfortable with breaking down and feeling like shit. I'm gonna help you love that. Like, nobody wants that. They want the money, they want the soul connection, they want they want better. So I think that's the challenge with any teacher is, but they both walk their talk. I mean, if you ever study them, their paths are strikingly similar. Like, I think they're both triple Sagittarius. They're, I think, 1 year apart. They both were born with severe disabilities and like Donnie, I think if I get this correct, I might not have this accurate, so I don't want to speak for him, but I think he didn't learn to speak until he was 5 years old, and he was declared like, retarded, and he was on severe, medications like opioids and all kinds of medication that distorted his reality. And like John was born with a club arm and a club foot, and he was dyslexic, and he had learning disabilities and challenges, and he was told he could never read or write, and he didn't learn to read until he was 18. So they both have this strikingly parallel, early challenge in life, and then they both were chiropractors, and they both started with that wisdom of innate intelligence, which is that the body, the wisdom that created the body heals the body, right? That's the foundation of that, of both, with BJ Palmer, the founder of, I think that's the founder of chiropractic. So I love that, because that just lined up perfectly with Dr. Shinichi Suzuki, which is why I mentioned that, is because
Yeah.
it's, it's like these master teachers who've done something extraordinary, they all have a similar philosophy, inner philosophy, which is like our genius is within. Right? It's like the world is going to try to get you to fit into every box, and it's going to try to tell you who to be and how to be, and it's going to tell you who you can't be, and it's going to make you feel really unsafe if you are not what fits into their expectation of you.
Mhm.
But to do something extraordinary, I mean, that's the thing for all of us entrepreneurs and peak performers and, big achievers, is like we want to do something extraordinary, but we've got to make sure our nervous system and our body mind is built and resourced to handle the challenge that comes with doing something extraordinary. So so I would say that maybe the other thing is that with Donnie, originally with what started as network chiropractics, he's had several evolutions. So I started with him when it was innateintelligence.org, and then it became Wise World Seminars, and now it's Epienergetics. And so he deals with what's called bound energy, which is in the body, and unbound energy, which is the field. A lot of people talk about the field now, or fields. He'll talk about energetic intelligences, and he'll talk about unbound energy. And John starts with the inner world, right? What are your values? What does your life demonstrate? And he'll go there too, but it doesn't teach it. He teaches it through philosophy and through knowledge.
Mhm.
He's an extraordinary gatherer of knowledge. So I would say the difference between them is, one is through felt experience through the body, and the other is through the mind. And so I'm very grateful that I have both, because if I only were doing it by thinking, trying to access the transcendent by thinking, by sitting and thinking, you can do it. And it's powerful and is very, very useful, but it's also very different when you have a non-verbal felt experience in and through the body and around the body. And then you can use an optimized mind to document that, witness that,
Mhm.
and give voice to that. And then if you want to think about it, you can, but knowing that the thinking can kill the experience. So that's what I would
Mhm.
say, that's the
Mhm.
biggest difference for me between
Yeah.
those two, is like, what's the entry point?
Yeah.
What is the entry point to self-actualization? Is it the body? Is it energy? Is it the mind? Is it understanding what your mind is doing and creating in your body? I mean, they're both very, very valuable.
Is there
Yeah.
something that you disagree with them? Is that, yeah.
Hmm. They're such good questions. Um,
Or that or that you
well,
find
I think,
incomplete? Yeah.
I think so. I think what I've learned over time, with I think okay, so with John's work, I think what I've learned is to allow myself to be more in the feminine, And that means that there's more intuition, there's more flow, there's more creativity, um, there's more. It's not all structure, time. I mean, and I wouldn't say he said this, so I'm only going to speak from my
Yeah.
interpretation of him, because that's really all I can speak about. I can't speak for him and what he teaches, but
Yeah.
his programs are like you're sitting in front of the computer for 15 hours a day, and you're reading the manual, and you're thinking, and you're doing, and there's no move in your body, there's no breaks, there's no getting outside, there's no time. I mean, he's synthesized like decades of knowledge, and he's trying to give you everything he can in this compressed short period of time where you're all in the mind. And my challenge with that is there's no, it's like, it's up to you. Are you going to integrate it? Are you going to synthesize it? Are you going to go live it? Are you going to study it? How are you going to take that mini concentrated pill of wisdom and decades of knowledge that will empower every area of your life? How are you actually going to be with that in the world?
Mhm.
There's no magic. There's no magic pill with John's work. None. So it's so much self accountability. And so I think my challenge is a little bit more like, okay, yes, there's this like decades of knowledge, and how does it apply to me?
Mm.
And how do I want to use it? And what about, so because for me, I still circle back to self-awareness, self-acceptance, like the inner world of knowing thyself. And if you're just being inundated with information, there's no room for self-reflection of how does it apply to you. So I think that's my
Mm.
biggest
Mm.
challenge with John's work. As part of it is just simply like he's just going to give you everything he can, and it's up to you to do whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're at the breakthrough and you do exactly what's taught, you will get a breakthrough. But that also requires so much self-awareness and
Mhm.
self-accountability, to not dodge, to not avoid, to not perform, to not subordinate. It's like there's, that's, I think that's the challenge with John, is like he will not do the work for you, and I'm very grateful for that. With Donnie, um it's anything I disagree with. um I think from with Donnie's work, I just have to be very careful that I don't fall into thinking that energy rich is better and
Yeah.
energy poor is bad. That's just the constant trap, is like to remember that energy poor is just as valuable, sometimes
Mm.
if not more resourceful. I think with Donnie's teaching now, my interpretation is he's really holding the vision that you don't have to go to drama, trauma, breakdown, and catastrophic life experiences in order to tap open and crack open to your inspired why, and to know the truth of who you are. He's really holding the vision that you don't have to go to the depths of hell to finally get cracked open to your light. He's like, hey, it's just right here. Let's just choose it. You could go to hell, but do you really have to? Because look, it's right here. Let me show you how to do it. So I think that's the part that I am holding with curiosity, is that really possible,
Yeah.
or do we have to go to hell, our inner hell and back, before we can do that? Like I think that's the part. Like his work now, in my perception, is it's just like, look, here's your tools, here's the way to do it, here's how you can learn what brings out the very best of you and what's possible for humanity, and holding a different level of existence, right? Where you don't have to have this bipolar, you know,
Mm.
distortion. So I think that's what I'm holding with curiosity, is
Yeah.
being like, how can I know that if I don't know this? Am I attached to that pain? I'm just like, that's the one thing that I'm curious about, and I'm gonna find out next week.
Don't you find it contradictory with the idea of John that you always have a balance of pain and pleasure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think but the and this is where it starts to get really trippy, right? Is it's like,
Yeah.
well, what's your vantage point? You know, like
Mhm.
Donny's work is at polarity with a lot of humanity who is so stuck in suffering and energy poor that is the polarity within the human experience. So it's there's still a polarity. It's just like, and then within that, you know, within that, um, it's really it's like okay, this is great answer. This is to one of your other questions. What's the challenge of this work? The
Yeah.
challenge with the work is that to make concepts solid, right? So that's a perfect question that you're
Mhm.
asking is like you got to be
Yeah.
present in the room in the moment to be able to experience in the moment your sensory perception that is documenting your unique perception of polar opposites. So the idea, so that, and I think that is really what I love about both of these teachers and what we're really talking about is like, and this is a different answer, but but an important one, which is all of this work is about self accountability. We are creating our experience in every single moment, and you'll hear things like the self reflective universe, or you'll hear things
Yeah.
like the hologram, or you start getting into quantum physics and quantum mechanics and quantum biology and quantum psychology and entanglement, and you're like, okay, but this is the trippiest thing. Can I tangent and tell you a story?
Yeah. 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 For sure.
Okay, it's very tangential, but it will kind of explain. So when I was a little kid, my parents went to this church called Unitarian Universalists, which is, I don't know if you have it in Europe, but it's non-denominational. It's kind of accepts all people, all gender, all sexual orientation. It's very philosophy based. It's big on the East Coast because I think that's where it started. And so I went to I think it technically is called religious education, but that's not really what it is. And the lesson of that day was for me to answer the question, how do I personally, Dana, how do I think the universe got started?
Okay.
Okay. You see, I got all these teachers very early in life. I was right from the beginning taught to ask big questions, think really
Yeah.
big, right? So I forget how something of that nature, and I said, because I didn't really. I struggled with religion. It didn't make any sense to me because I looked at religion and I said, it feels to me like everybody's saying the same thing in different ways, and they're all arguing about how you say it. I mean, some have more,
Mhm. Yeah.
morality and than others, but I was like, I don't really get it. It just feels like we're all saying the same thing. Like, what's the big deal? And so I had this idea as a little kid. I said, what if we are um maybe there's an alien existence out there, and what if planet Earth is their science fair project, and there's this little kid and he's got a bubble around the planet and he's just speeding up time because their time is faster than ours, and they're just trying to see if we're gonna like kill ourselves and destroy ourselves or not. And I kind of had this like idea that maybe we're like an experiment, to see
Mhm.
what we do. um that was a total tangent. But help me come back to what I was saying
Yeah.
before that. There was a
I jump on your tangent with you. Um,
sorry, sorry, not
no.
sorry. There was a reason
Uh,
why I went there though. Um
yeah.
hmm,
We was on
something
the
about
idea of,
polarity.
yeah, yeah. It
Mm,
was it was this possible contradiction about you can go there, it's just there, or your
mhm,
life
mhm.
will always have a balance of pain and pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You reined me back in. Thank you. I went way out there. So I think just to circle back to, because of the commonality between, you know, because the topic has been a lot about these different mentors of
Yeah.
mine and how this work has changed my life and how it's,
Yeah.
you know, it is something I live. It is in me. It's like in my cells, you know, both of these have become so much a part of how I work and how I live. But the fundamental core of it is we are accountable. We are radically accountable. And that is so liberating and so difficult to go, I am responsible for my perception. I am responsible for the state I'm in. When we take radical responsibility, it means there's no one to blame. And we're in some interesting times right now where it's really,
Yeah.
really tempting to want to blame a lot of things. Blame the pandemic, blame the economy, blame the global warming, blame politics, blame tariffs, blame, you know, immigration. I mean, there's so easy to want to blame something, but fundamentally, it's always our perception of a moment that creates an emotional reaction, and that emotional reaction creates a physical sensation, and that is up to us. And I think that is the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line, is that, like Donnie will say, you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are liberated and you are accountable to your experience by the state you're in. That is up to you. And John will say the same thing. You are not a victim of
Yeah.
your charges. You are not a victim of your circumstances. It is up to you to be accountable to your perceptions. And it's so fundamental and it's so simple and it's so
Yeah.
challenging. But
Yeah.
that, you know, and I think that's where it all keeps circling back to that, right? The AAA, the knowing your values, knowing yourself,
Yeah.
knowing your energy state, knowing that. Why? It's because it keeps cracking the delusion that something out there, an achievement, earnings, business, impact, somebody out there is going to make life better. And that is nothing more than a reflection of who you're being and how you're doing what you're doing and who you're being when you're doing. That's up to us. And nobody can take that on for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's the first concept I encounter in the first book of personal development that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it will take one lifetime to embody it.
Yeah.
My last question, and you have started to answer it, but
Mm-hmm.
my last question was, does the concept effortless really works for high achiever, or is it only a beautiful concept for spiritual people?
Oh no. I mean, I think effortless, oh my gosh, this is this is gonna be a long answer, Julian. Um, so I think, right, we have effortless and effortful, right? Like
Yeah.
if we, you know, if you own the concept that we live in a world of polarity, there's no way you can have effort without effortless. So the concept of effortless needs to get defined,
Okay.
right? It's
Yeah.
got in the personal definition. So for example, so okay, here's how we can put all this together. Donny Epstein, in my perception, will talk about energy rich. What are you experiencing when you're energy rich? Well, in my knowledge, if I were going to try to articulate I'll think of it like an orchestra or like a musical instrument. Like everything's tuned. And when
Yeah.
everything is tuned together, there's like one magnificent, profound resonance. And that, like, there's no distortion, there's no dissonance. It's just like, you know, you can hear it with the choir, you can hear it with bells, you know, you hear it in nature where there's just like this profound, magnificent resonance in it. You might get chills, you might get tears, you might get goosebumps, you know. I'm going to call that, for lack of a better analogy, energy rich. Now, if we translate that to the body, what does that mean? It means the nervous system is optimized. It means the respiratory system is optimized. It means the brain is cohesive. We'll talk about a cohesive system. When we have a system that's online, our nervous system, our brain, our focus, our emotions, our range of motion, our physiology, when all that comes together, we're going to experience effortlessness. Now, people will say, oh, that's because it's your highest value. Or somebody might say, oh, that's because you're
Mhm.
energy rich. Or somebody might say, oh, that's because you're on purpose. Or somebody could say, oh, that's because you're in alignment. I just think it means that you got all your ducks in a row. Like you don't have two pointing this way and one pointing this way and two going this way,
Mhm.
and then everybody's trying to move forward. It's like, it's just like the system is it's just optimally functioning like an engine in a car. Everything's just like humming. So effortless tends to come when we don't edit, when we don't have a should, when we're not comparing ourselves to somebody else, when we don't have some fantasy of an expectation of what it should look like and how it should be. There are things that are spontaneous. And when we say effortless, it means I mean, this all needs to be defined. What is effort? Right? What is effortless? It's like if I'm, you look at children, you just all you got to do is just go look at a 3-year-old, or a 2-year-old, and you just see them. And like you could say that's effortless because there's no thinking mind there. There's no
Mhm.
observer who's constantly
Okay.
criticizing them, shaming them, guilting them, pushing them, analyzing them. There's no internal conflict between the observer and the self. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So when we talk
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
effortless, of course, effortless, you could, but this is like, it's got to be in a content, in a context, right? Like you could
Yeah.
say, like Roger Federer, one of my
Yeah.
favorite inspired role models, right? He's
Me too.
playing, I remember an interview where he was like, he's like, I hate it when people say it looks effortless. It's like it just looks effortless because I've put in billions of hours of effort
Mhm.
into being
Yeah.
able to do that so gracefully. So that you could say that effortless is a combination of effort over time, right? Effort, focus, effort
Mhm.
over time until we have mastery. But effortless is what? A perception from other or ourselves.
Mhm.
If it's ourselves, we're not going to call it effortless until we stop and look back and analyze.
Mhm.
Because if it's effortless, we're in the state of flow and there's no thinking mind to
Yeah.
analyze or judge or notice, right? We only notice after the fact. And then we go, oh, that seems so effortless.
Um,
How'd I do that? Effortless is a concept of the mind,
yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
so effortless, of course, it's when something is in flow, it's spontaneous, it's easy, but it's also a judgment of the mind comparing to effort, and all of that comes from a should, an objective, awareness, analyzing, tracking, paying attention. I mean, all that stuff is part of that. So maybe perhaps the real question could be, you know, when do you observe within yourself? There's no thinking, analyzing, judging, shoulding on you about how you should look, be, act, do, say, come across, make an impression. When are you in a state of just being? And then, I think maybe that's another way to access it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like
And
it's effortless for me to talk, in case you haven't
yeah.
noticed.
No, and it's effortless for me to ask questions. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Just don't ask me about like, quantum mechanics or something, and then it will be very effortful.
yeah.
Mm.
Thank you so much for all this wisdom, and I would love to re-listen the recording again and again, and it's a good sign
Mm.
for me. So thank you
Mm.
so much. I think if we want to work with us or people want to find more about
Mhm.
what you are doing and
Mhm.
how we can work with you, how can people find you?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So you can go to my website, which is danafonteneau.com, French name. With all those vowels, so danafonteneau.com. And I actually offer complimentary discovery sessions for anybody who's inspired to work with me. We have a half an hour discussion to kind of get to know each other and explore, what are the challenges you're facing? What are the dreams that you would love to actualize? And, and then that's a complimentary service I give people to get to know if they want to go deeper with me. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on Instagram. It's Dana Fonteneau Consulting.
Yeah.
So
And
you
you're
can find me there.
and you're posting every day for 30 days.
Yes, I'm doing a 30-day challenge that's taking me 36 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were joking about that. It's like, when you're a peak performer, high achiever, world class, whatever, sometimes the boring and the mundane is so much more difficult than anything else. And so I gave myself this 30-day challenge that's so far taken, it's going to be probably 34 days. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dana.
Yes. Thank you so much.